Hey everybody, welcome to a special edition of Fred's Friends, this new series that I'm doing on my friends and what they're up to and some of the cool stuff that's going on. I'm here with my very good friend, Caleb Kilburn. How are you, sir?
Cheers, my friend.
Listen, well, you're also the youngest master distiller in the game, and you're doing great work here at Peerless, Sweet Mash City, as I like to say. What have you been up to?
Well, it's been a crazy year so far. We have traditionally had kind of a little bit of a lull going into OND, and then it's a little slow when we start the year. That's the way it has been in years past, and so we usually take some downtime and do some maintenance and things like that. But this year has actually just blown us away. Where we were used to getting a little bit of slack, a little bit of time to be able to do different services, send people out, people get to take vacations, things of that nature. We have just been swamped with orders. It's a great problem to have.
And online sales just really opened up for you all.
Yeah, excited to see how that develops.
Yeah.
But as of right now, just the demand within our traditional pipelines, the old school way of selling whiskey is blowing up for us, and it's amazing. This morning, I actually just got back from a little brief vacation, and while I was gone, everything got turned on send. We've got more barrels to dump. We've got a batch that I've got to get together by tomorrow morning. I mean,
it's kind of depressing when you get back from vacation. I mean, listen, I know you love your job. I love my job, but you get back from vacation, you're like, I don't want to work. You know, it's still work.
I would say that, but for the fact that during the vacation, I was, hey, what's going on? Hey, what do we need to do? Okay, that's coming down the pipeline. So I don't know.
Are you afraid like someone's going to screw up while you're gone?
No. You're
totally afraid. That's why you were checking in.
It's not anyone else screw up thing. It's just I'm very much a control freak, which is one of my downfalls. I trust people. I'm just bad at delegating. So I want to be in the room for everything.
I suck at delegating too. That was the one thing that I had going for me in the Army. Is that when you delegated, no one could like say no to you because we were like over them.
Okay.
And like it's like literally against the law to disobey your superior in the military. And you get out in the civilian world, you tell someone to do something, and they're like, "Well, what about this?" Like, no, that's not how this works.
I gave you very implicit instructions.
Yeah. So I mean, you might have been. You could have been really good in the Army. You know,
who knows?
Or Marines. You strike me more as a Marine than Army.
I'll take any of that as a high compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you'd have been a good service person. So you've got a whole thing going on like this. Yes. I'm really excited about this because this is the first time you've showed this.
Well, it was just this past December that we finally got it assembled. Okay. So what we've got going on here, this is the Kentucky Peerless Series 1. So a little background on how I came up with this. When we first started, we made a very unique decision within the modern landscape of whiskey to actually make our own juice. That can't be overstated. We make our own product.
Yeah, in a time when people were sourcing and stuff like
it's common practice. It's there's, in my opinion, nothing wrong with that as long as you're transparent with your people.
Sure.
That's a whole nother podcast, whole nother blog or whatever we're doing this on.
It's a whole lot of other things. Yeah,
yes.
A lot of things.
But with our focus on sweet mash, our low barrel entry proof, our distillation process, all these things made it impossible for us to go out and source. We didn't want to do it, and the added uniqueness of our product made it impractical. So when we first started, we didn't have any whiskey to sell. There was no 6-month-old whiskey that we wanted to push out the door or new make or anything like that. So when people would come and tour, people would come and visit, naturally there was nothing for them to really taste as far as what our whiskey would be becoming. And so I came up with this idea that I pitched to Carson and Corky called the Series 1, where we would show them the whiskey as it matures. So they understood, yes, this is a 6-month-old product. It's not going to taste like a 5-year-old. We're not trying to make it taste like a 5-year-old. We're not doing any gimmicks or rapid aging or anything like that. But instead, if you can appreciate how this whiskey matures, you'll be able to see where we were and where we're going. So we came up with this collection. There's only 300 of them available. And we start with new make. Day was distilled. Next day went into the bottle. Then we set the other barrels on the rick. And as they matured, we'd pull them down. This is all the same distillation, all the same batch of barrels. Everything was meant to be as identical as possible. That way you can really dissect and see how the whiskey matures. So again, all one batch, distilled all in one day. These were all put in the barrels, and this one went into the bottle right off the bat. At 6 months, we pulled this one down, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and so on.
Same barrel?
Different barrels.
Different barrels?
Same batch of barrels.
Same batch of barrels.
So yeah.
Now, I remember when you all first started putting out aged product, you guys gave me one of these, and there was a couple of them. So you've actually been doing something like this for a while, but this is the first time you've had the entire
whole flight.
The whole flight, and the oldest is
5 years.
5 years
in 1 day.
Man, That's
So it actually has a
lot
beautiful
of age for Peerless. That's amazing.
It's a beautiful gradient because you can really see where and how and when it really picks up the color. And
All right.
you ready to just taste it?
Yeah.
Let's just jump into it.
It's enough talkie. Let's do some tasting.
Okay.
So you start there. Do we? And I'll start.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I was going to say, you want to pour one at a time, or how do you want to go about this?
You go. You know yours, and I'll go this way. And then, yeah. You got longer arms in addition to hair. You got more arms than I do.
I don't think I have more arms.
If you have longer arms, you technically have more arms.
This is a factual statement.
This is straight out of science. Actually, this is kind of an interesting little thing we got going on here. This could be like this could be like
synchronized pours.
Synchronized pouring, but this could also be like something you do at nightclubs, you know? So this could be like a whole Vegas strip thing. Now grab the last one.
So, new make.
What and refresh my memory. What's the mash bill on this?
Sneaky. No.
So
I would love to share it. It pains me to have these numbers like at the ready that I can't just divulge.
Oh.
But I can't.
You'd get in trouble if you shared them.
I would. I don't think they would get rid of me, but we'd have a stern talking to.
I don't think anybody wants that. No, at this stage, you're kind of looking for flaws, right?
Yeah.
And there's no, it smells clean. There's no flaws to it.
Has like a little butter popcorn character to it.
Yeah, I was going to say popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, most noticeably absent here is that classic sour mash note. And that's really why we went for the sweet mashing technique.
Yeah.
As you know,
you were trying to sell right out of the gate.
Well, it's not that. It's what it allows us to do in distillation.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the traditional sour mash note, when you go to distill it, you have to clean it up a little bit because it can be overpowering.
Mm-hmm. So
rather than having to distill at a higher proof, clean it up, and stripping out a lot of grain character and other things, by avoiding that note altogether, now we can distill at a very low proof, be extremely aggressive, pulling in those butters, the caramels, all those things that you can get in a new make right off the still.
Mm-hmm.
So sweet mash is not just about the flavors created in the fermentation process, but what it allows you to do at each step down the line.
I'm beginning this voyage, Caleb, of everything I do somehow tying it to music.
Okay.
And like anytime I taste something, anytime I see something, like in my head, I'm just going straight to a song, or I'm going straight to a moment in a live concert venue or something. I crave music all the time because it's been taken away from us, right? This is a little bit of picking on the porch, a little banjo, some just good old fashioned bluegrass,
Okay.
What that
I like
tastes
that.
like to me.
It is very grassy. There are a lot of those same notes. Music and taste are both two of the most powerful sensations that trigger memories and sensations where you're at.
Absolutely.
So you going right to that, I don't quite have as much of a musical undertone to mine, but the visuals, the heat, the sun, the dirt, I'm right there with you.
It's tasty.
So yeah.
And 107 proof.
107 proof.
Yeah.
This was what we went into the barrel at. Now, everyone from here forward is going to have slight variances, differences, because as it matures, it's going to gain some water, lose some water, gain some alcohol, lose some alcohol, as far as the percentages, the proofs, and everything down the line.
Sure.
But overall, it's a good new make. It's not supposed to taste like a finished whiskey. It's not going to be like it's finished bourbon, but this allowed us to give something to our consumers to allow them to kind of join us on this journey.
Sure.
Ready to go to 6 months?
Let's do it.
So at this point, we've had the first impression of the barrel. A lot of people who I've spoke with
I just spilled half of it on me. I went to my nose and down, boom, splash.
Gotcha. So for a lot of people, the first impression they get when they taste a young whiskey that has been in the barrel is often negative. Often it takes a step back before those notes, those flavors begin to turn into their more palatable, flavorful variants.
I typically agree with that. Like you get too much of the charcoal on that first pull. And this is very astringent.
Yep. It leads good. Like when we're describing it, myself and Nick Klee and John Wadle, our single barrel curator, kind of our internal panel, generally we break things down into quarters. So first quarter is actually pretty pleasant. It has a nice little sweetness. It has a little bit of barrel character. But then it goes to like this burnt match, burnt chocolate, things that just haven't really worked out yet.
Yeah,
But again, this
isn't
supposed to be some glamorized version of
this
barrel
is for
aging.
you.
This is honest.
This is your effort to learn how the process as it's going. So that's what this is meant to do. But I would certainly encourage you not to bottle that in no other way.
And whenever you see other whiskeys come out that are at a young age, there are things that can be done, sure, but Mother Nature ultimately is going to have her thumb on the pulse of when it is going to be ready.
Now, what do you think about rapid aging? Because rapid aging that's becoming really popular right now. It's taking off in circles that we didn't see before. Like you've got like David Jeter coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I just had someone on my podcast, Bill Fay, the executive producer of The Hangover. He's got a new technology out that, it's basically electronic filtration. So you have all these methods that are coming out that are meant to make that taste older than it is.
It's not my preference. Like you said, goody two shoes earlier, I won't say anything bad about other people, but I'll say that I never remotely considered any of those practices here at Peerless. Diplomatic enough?
Hey, that's for me.
1 year.
1 year, here we go. Now we're getting into the
Now we've stopped taking steps back. We're starting to
and it can be classified as Kentucky bourbon now. There's a law in the books because it cannot be Kentucky bourbon in the Commonwealth of Kentucky unless it's 1 year old and 1 day.
Nice.
Aged.
So the 6 month was at 107 proof. This particular barrel actually lost some proof. This was 106.2. Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's edged out a little bit, but there's like for me, there's it's edged out, but now that grain kind of comes in underneath. Like this is drinkable. And,
still not where it needs to be though.
Not where it needs to be, but you can drink that in a pinch and it's going to be better than a lot of things on the shelf. Like in that, honestly, craft whiskey is a category where we have a conversation all the time about, and like, it's not, there are some great craft distillers, and then there are a lot in a process, finding their distilling legs, if you will. And there are a lot of bad whiskeys on the shelf today, a lot of bad whiskeys. And unfortunately, a lot of those are tied to craft distillers. And it's not because they're experimenting or anything. It's just bad distillation or bad fermentation or pulling it too quickly, or they got shoddy cooperage, whatever it is. But it's just not palatable. And I would, and it's like, so it's encouraging to see what that is,
at a year age.
Now. Yeah. So that's very encouraging.
And these weren't barrels that were pre-screened. This was just a true cross-section of Peerless's aging inventory. So it's nothing where we were even able to go through and say like, ooh, this one's a single barrel quality barrel at this phase, because every one of these are single barrels. So I'm really excited to see where it's going, because again, we've laid a good foundation. The new make was good. The 6 months it's turning the corner. Let's see where we get at 2 years. So this will be the largest age gap to date. This one's actually climbed to 108.3.
Okay, smelling a little butter on there. Also getting some wood. I didn't get a lot of wood on that year-old. Now the wood is starting to come out. Like that whiskey's gone a little deeper into that stave. And
had a little better extraction.
It's getting some extraction for sure. Yeah, that wood is prominent. If I'm tasting that and I'm on the barrel line, I'm like, all right, we're not ready to bottle this. That wood's working. Yes. You know it's working. I'm looking forward to seeing what that next round is to see what it's doing.
Yeah, it's.
But this is astringent. This is very oaky.
It's too in your face. It's. I want to say over oak because often over oak is associated with age.
Yeah, no,
where this went too long.
This is green oak. This is like grabbing some pecan shells or walnut shells after they've been fresh, after they had been peeled off too early.
That's a good descriptor.
And like you throw them on there. That's what these are. These are not. These are portions of the oak, but not all the way in. So this is that top line kind of green oak. But that oak's job is to turn into some beautiful things later on. So we're going to year
they're
number
precursors
to
where they need to be.
They're precursors, exactly. So you're tasting a 2-year-old, and you're not getting that particular wood note. You're getting charcoal. Then you think to yourself, boy, this can go either way. But if you're getting like these kind of like astringent walnut shell notes, then the wood, it's at that top level of the wood. It's going to get deeper into that barrel. Let's see where it is now at year 3.
Now we should really be making a shift.
And there it is. There it is. It's there. You don't smell that already. That that kind of like wood note right off the top is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go.
This is a phase where, in my experience with our other products, I can't remember my tasting notes off the cuff for this one, where we start to really grasp a little bits of citrus, a little bits of cedar, a little bits of kind of this smoky molasses character.
All right, so that wood note has kind of graduated to that smoke that you had mentioned.
Yep.
There's a little bit underneath it, but to me, it's not that it's flat. It's just like, it's like you're tasting this and you're like, I want more. I know there's more to this.
Yes.
You know, it's not there. It's like, it's drinkable. I think I might actually like, you know, if I'm doing a comparative, I think I really like the 1-year-old.
Mm-hmm. And again, these are different barrels. They mature at slightly different rates.
Oh, no, the 3-year-old. Yeah.
Well, we started at the forgiving end of the spectrum and are building into it. Once you taste up here, you can go back down the chain and really see what's lacking.
That's amazing, because like my memory was so fond of the 1-year-old, and going back to it after the 3-year-old, it's like, oh yeah, no, it's not in the same league. But the 3-year-old is like, there's a touch of honey there.
Yep.
There's a kind of undercurrent of spice and some smoke, and it's like, all right, we got something here.
Like you said, these are precursors. Some of the stringent grassiness, some of the grains that are a little bit, I don't want to say foul, but they're just too raw. They're not refined.
Speaking of foul, what's the grossest thing you've ever smelled in a whiskey?
When someone really, really gets greedy and misses a tails cut, it's terrible, especially if they had a messy fermentation. You were talking about craft distillers. Anytime someone is in a situation where I can get more if I cut more into the whiskey, and they maybe for whatever reason they don't know better, or maybe they're in a financial situation where they need every drop of that to distill it. Those are times where I see people getting a little too greedy, and that's when a cut really gets missed, and it gets it's terrible.
Oh wow! So
I mean, you grade a lot of craft whiskeys. I have to imagine you see a ton of tails cuts being missed.
But I also see bad stuff in the big distillers too. Listen, the big distillers, you know, they have some brands they're blending shit off in that ain't nobody in our league should be drinking.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll tell you that, you know, column distilling gets this kind of a pass because it's continuous, and you're like, oh, we'll just run it through again. Man, sometimes bad fermentation just leads to bad distillate over and over and over again.
Well, even with a column still, if you run it too fast, you're not having any separation then. When I was speaking in terms of pot distillation earlier with the tails cut, you have to do the same cuts on a column. It's just a lot more temperature based. Right. Well, if you run the column too fast, if you get greedy, if you're trying to harvest every bit of the heads, every bit of the tails, you don't really have that separation that you need. And it can lead to some very foul product. I will say I have tasted some column distilled product that has just been terrible.
Yeah, I think there's this oversightness that it's just the pot still, but no, it's column stills can lead to the earthly dead cat smell.
Now we're at 5 years. I can't really see the proof on that 110.1. They're turned slightly toward you, so. Now, 4 years of age, 4 years today, this is the youngest that we'd ever consider dumping a barrel of bourbon for Kentucky Peerless. I will say the majority of product at this age, we do put back for longer aging. If we taste something, we're like, okay, this is really good, sure, we'll work it into the mix. But generally, we push it several months or even years beyond this.
Okay. Yeah, this is... It's bright. It's got a little butterscotch there to it, but I also know your rye so well. And I have this dirty habit of comparing your bourbon to your rye.
Oh, that's unfair, man. We make really good rye.
You make great rye.
And rye matures quicker.
It does. There's like a mouthfeel in your rye that I'm always seeking in your bourbon. And maybe this is a conversation for us to have now, but I get this incredible oiliness and like this, like just like dripping down my palate and underneath my side, just oil of your rye at this age. Why don't I get that on the bourbon?
I assume it has to do with the mash bill, which I can't share with you.
Oh, son of a gun. See, that was another setup. I was just trying to, I'm like, I'm getting so good at these setups.
And I can't give it to you. Anytime you're dealing with the quote-unquote flavor grains, in bourbon, corn is a great base. It serves as the engine. It really pushes things along. But you know how much more potent the rye and the barley, or if you were to go to a wheated whiskey, the wheat, those other grains have just such a bang for their buck as far as the amount of flavor they contribute.
Where do you get your rye from?
Consolidated Grain and Barge. Right over, it's about 8 minutes away from the distillery, right here in West Louisville. But they source, I believe, 95% of their rye from the Ohio River Valley region. So it's as local as possible for us.
Okay.
But yeah, when you are dealing with rye whiskey having that base of that more pungent, potent, stronger grain, I have a feeling that that's where you're getting that added heft.
Oh man, I think a lot of it, like so many people struggle with fermenting rye because it foams over and they have to throw in enzymes, and you guys don't use enzymes, and so you do a lot of things that
we're gonna. Real quick. So I won't tell lies. I will not lie for anything.
Yeah.
So I can't set by that statement and not say something. We do utilize some enzymes, but it's actually to maximize the barley.
All right.
So traditionally, if you use, and I don't know if this is cutting in or out, that's between you and Cordell. Traditionally, when you're doing a old school whiskey, you would take a piece of your malt and you use it on the front end as a pre-malt. What this does is that alpha amylase keeps things thin. It helps start that conversion and allows you to actually start converting some of that starch into sugar on its way up. This keeps it nice, liquidy. It makes the process flow very well. But when you're dealing with barley, it's very sensitive as far as its flavor contributions. If you get it too hot, it kind of fades away. It kind of falls into the background. Well, we want to maximize every drop of that barley as far as contributing to the final flavor of a product. So we do use a slight amount of alpha amylase on the front end to replace that contribution. It still makes the process run very well, but then when we add our barley on the final side, after we've hit our peak heat, it really maximizes its flavor contribution. Sorry for the detour. You can work that out with Cordell. But yeah, so we do use enzymes.
You do use enzymes.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So to glass number 5, the 5-year-old.
The finale. And again,
here we go.
This is just a standard 5-year, 1-day barrel off of the rig.
110.3 proof. Now, was this these were all aged here, or were some in Henderson County? All aged here?
All on site.
Okay. Oddly, I'm getting a rhubarb in here.
I was going to say it's got some dark fruit characteristic, almost as if it's like a reduction.
A hint of licorice?
Yep. I was going to say it was like a fruit bitter.
I never get licorice in your stuff. Wow. That's popping on the palate.
So now so many of the things that we saw as precursors down here, they're really coming into their own. That oakiness that early on was, like you said, green, astringent. Now it's like that smoldering log on the fire. That graininess now is kind of taking a step back. It has that mouthfeel, like you said, that drip, that heft. Fruit notes that were completely MIA in the early years are now becoming prominent. It's really fun to see how, again, it's all the same juice. Slightly different barrels with the same aging conditions. It's just age. It takes time for you to be able to build it. Even has a nice little tobacco to it.
Well, it doesn't suck.
That is a powerful compliment.
I'm excited to see where this goes, even further.
Yeah.
As it is now, it's definitely complete. It's hitting front, back, middle, tip of the palate, just a little bit on my right side, on my right, kind of right side of my mouth to the cheek. But it has good movement on the palate. It tastes lovely. But to me, it's not. This story is not over, And 5 years old is a great age to accomplish. But I'm excited to see where this is at 8.
Me too. And that wasn't the intent of this. Wasn't to say 5-year whiskey is as far as we're going. This is the finished end all product.
Sure.
This was an experience. This was an experiment for people to be able to see where we started, and where we've got to so far. I'm not even going to say where we're going, but where we've got to so far. So I absolutely look for you to see the same jumps that we saw between 3 and 4 and 5 when we go to 6, when we go to 7. But the sheer fact that everything we do is within these 4 walls means we can't just go out and buy some 10-year-old Peerless somewhere because it doesn't exist
Yet.
One
day.
Yeah.
5 years from now.
If you're watching this video in the future, I got you.
If you're watching it in the year 2026, then yes, we have 10-year-old Peerless. But
yeah, fun experiment, right?
it's a great experiment, and I'd actually like to see more distillers do something like this if they have the ability to do so. I've seen, Maker's Mark play with it. Did something similar with this, with like a Buffalo Trace. But you here are testing the aging. Will you be doing any other types of tests, like different grain swap outs, different yeast, or different mash bills?
I do have another mash bill in the works. I'm very excited with where it's going.
Is it?
You're really going to like it.
Is it wheat?
No, not wheat. High rye.
High rye. Okay.
Yes.
So that's to tell us that this has, equal parts rye and barley.
Maybe.
The journey continues.
But I will say the next one, I don't think we're near on it yet. I want to wait until we get it right where we want it.
That's awesome.
Even the preliminary samples, preliminary tests, we're very confident that it's a bourbon that Fred Minnick is going to approve of.
Wow.
He will say it does not suck.
Well, I'm going to do a little taste off between the 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and 5-year-old.
Because anything below that would be inhumane.
Right? You want to do it too? Well, you got plenty?
Yeah, I've got to drive right after this. I've got smaller sips on the palate.
Are you not joining us for lunch?
No, I'm actually going to start the journey of land ownership.
What?
Yeah. We are getting a small little craft farm out in Oldham County.
I know, you'll be my neighbor.
Yeah. Actually, if Hannah takes the back way to and from work, she'll be driving right by you all.
That's awesome. I really like the 3-year-old. I really like the 4-year-old. I really like the 5-year-old. That's a tough one. I'd have to do this blind to tell you, but I probably lean toward the 4-year-old just a touch, but maybe. Yeah. But I think
that's kind of where it was. It had a little bit of like a burnt marshmallow quality to it, and it's not better or worse. It's just different.
Yeah.
And that is one thing I would like to say about this. I was extraordinarily nervous about this whole thing because it's a tall order to just call your shot, to just put a barrel on the rick and say, I'm going to bottle that as a single barrel.
Yeah.
Because when we go through and we taste, generally right now, about half of the barrels we go through and we taste, we put them back on the shelf. We let them age longer.
They don't all taste good?
Well, it's not that they don't taste good. It's that they don't taste good yet. Like we went through in these early years, there are things that are going to become better. Maybe the barrel hasn't reached its potential yet. Maybe there's still something that's lingering behind that's not quite what we want it to be. So we let it age longer. But with this, we didn't have that luxury. We had to paint this transparent picture of this is what the barrels taste like at this age. So yeah, there are some things in here that if I had to complete freedom to pick any barrel from the rick, you never would have saw that green note in the 3-year-old. I would have found one that didn't have it. But again, this wasn't about picking the best barrels from all around the rick house to try to showcase some inflated sense of quality at these ages. We just wanted to show something that was true, something that was honest to this batch followed through its aging. It's like reality television in a flight of whiskey. So
this much is true, which is like a 1980 song. Cheers to number 4, the 4-year-old, 110.1 proof. It's just got a little layer in there that 5 is lost, and it's on that next cycle. Whiskey goes in cycles.
Yeah.
It's in cycles, and it seems to me like yours might be in a cycle of 3. Like the 1-year-old, you could see the most prominence, and then the 4-year-old, you could see the most prominence. 5 was delicious, 3 was delicious. So I'm wondering if that next cycle for these Peerless barrels is at 7 years old.
I'm excited to get there.
Yeah, let's do that. Well, Caleb, it's always a pleasure to have you. No, I just took a sip, but it's always a pleasure to have you, my friend. And, whatever you're doing, be safe, man. I know you just got married, and marriage is a beautiful thing. If I can give you one piece of advice about marriage, is that, there's a lot of joking that goes on, and that, we're never right, and the wife's always right, correct, and all that. There's a semblance of that is accurate, but it's more about communication, like talking and always having like a constant dialogue. My wife and I, we joke and talk about everything. And like if she's not talking or I'm not talking, we both know. We're just like on each other, like everything okay? Like, and it's about space, and sometimes you need your space, and but like that we used to do a lot of like marriage, not marriage counseling, but we used to give talks at marriage retreats and stuff like that. And we don't do it anymore since we had kids, but it's communication is so important. It's so important for marriage. But I will let that go for another time. It was so great, seeing you, hanging out with you, and I know you got a bright future ahead, and there's so many great things ahead. And cheers to you, and thanks for coming on, as always.
Hey, it takes great friendships, and you've been amazing to me. I mean, not just in an editorial sense, just the small interactions, the what do you taste here, the what do you get there, and piece of advice. I mean, if this is the title of the series, the Fred's Friends, it's never been truer. Thank you.
Oh, right on, man. Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
And cheers to you all. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to see more, make sure you search for more and click subscribe and all that good stuff. But be safe out there. And remember, vodka sucks unless it's being made for hand sanitizer. You don't make vodka, right?
Nope.
You're never going to make vodka. Because vodka sucks. Why would you make vodka?
It's a wider shade of paint. I don't like vodka.
It's like, it's awful. It's like, you drink in a parking lot if you need it. But that's about it. But that's going to do it for this episode. Be safe out there, everybody. Cheers. Yeah, I really like 4.